So, Julian, thank you so much for doing this.
Pleasure.
I appreciate you are a busy man, and I appreciate that you are very popular, as we know. You know, 160 million views of your TED Talks, which is quite something, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
We are not worthy. So
Steady on, Martin.
So before we get into the kind of deep, kind of looking at your past and how we came to this point, can you just give us a brief précis of what where your company is at, where your practice is at currently?
Sure. Yes. 20 years I ran a company called the Sound Agency, which I closed last year and moved on to focus on my true passion in life, which is generating listening in the world. That's what it's about. Listening is in decline. I kind of had a Damascene, I don't know how you pronounce that, revelation. Yeah. As I was doing this audio branding work, working with companies who just didn't think about sound at all, and most of them still don't. And you've had this experience as well. So you had to pre-sell, ask a company who's in charge of sound, and they look at you as if you're nuts. So it was all a pre-sell. There is a problem. You're not thinking about it. It has an effect. Sound is powerful. And then you could finally have some sort of a conversation, which ended up usually with, okay, well, can you make a bing bong for us then?
This is exactly my experience. As you know, when we first met, I think I had my company, Sonic ID.
Yeah.
We had partners in the UK and in America, and we had lots of contacts. And we had meetings with, big companies who were interested in this field.
Yeah.
And on the surface, they said they were interested in engaging and finding out about it, but they didn't want to spend any money on it. Or they didn't want to, they saw it as it was like putting sprinkles on a cake.
Yeah.
Luxury.
I think on the cherry on the cake. Sorry.
Yeah, cherry on it. Sorry, Cherry. What were we saying?
Yeah, a luxury, an additional added luxury rather than
not a must-have. It was a sort of have maybe.
Yeah.
And anyway, they did get involved. Generally, an advertising agency would then step in and say, "Oh, we can do that for you. We know about sound." So, which they do. So, I had 20 years of doing that, and then it occurred to me. I think it was around the time of my third TED Talk, which was about listening. I suddenly had this revelation. The reason none of these companies are thinking about sound at all is because they're full of people who don't listen.
Good.
People who don't listen. And so that kind of planted a seed in me, really. And I went on with the next TED Talk was about architects not listening, which is still very important. And I still work on that. And the final one was about speaking, which is the one that went ballistic. Now, that's quite interesting because that talk about speaking powerfully has been seen by 5 times as many people as my talk about listening.
Interesting.
Which says, so we're all keen to be heard, but we don't want to listen, or at least we can't listen. And that's not an equation that works very well in the modern world. Nobody's listening. What's the point in free speech or powerful speaking if nobody's listening? And they're not. It's getting worse and worse. And there's lots of stats and research backing that up now. So I kind of got fed up with walking around shopping malls, auditing the sound in them, which I did a great deal of over the years. I launched a company called Moodsonic out of the Sound Agency, which, I've got nothing to do with now, but it's doing wonderful work out there creating biophilic generative soundscapes in offices. So they're not loops. They are kind of organic soundscapes using nature sound, which is very good for you as well as doing quite a good job in masking. So that was the biggest that was the most valuable, interesting bit of the Sound Agency, which then went off and left for various reasons I won't go into now. So I was left kind of with shopping malls again. And I thought, you know what? I really need to move on. And so that's where I started writing the book Sound Effects. which took 2 years. And now my life is I do keynote talks around the world. I do workshops, full day workshops for teams of people who want to learn the skills of speaking and listening, in particular listening. And the book is only recently out, actually, so I'm still doing a lot of promoting the book, sound effects. So it's those things really, along with my new venture, which is the Listening Society. I should change my background.
Very, very kindly given me a free membership to.
I have, and I'll give one to you as well, Cherub, if that's okay. I mean,
Yes, thank you so much.
handpicked people who really care about sound. I'm asking in just to help me to build this thing, because it's a tough job building an online community. I've put tons of stuff in there. My whole 7-hour course is in there, free for members.
I've just had an idea, Julian. If you send me a link, or a brief kind of text to read out, I'll include it in the forthcoming podcast that we do.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
I think because this community needs to be holistically joined.
Yeah.
We can't do it on our own.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And it's not about me. I put all my stuff in there, but I'm hoping as it grows to hundreds or even thousands of people that it will become self-sustaining, organic. People will be sharing their problems, sharing solutions, sharing ideas, sharing sounds that they love,
Right.
all this kind of stuff. So it's a nexus for people who care about sound and listening. And I'm hoping it's going to become a kind of wedge, the thin end of a wedge to improve listening in the world. That's the idea. So that's my new passion.
I love this.
That's where I am really at the moment.
Me too. I can't wait to share this with our network as well. We have a global academy for sound healing, teaching people how to be sound healers. And we do a whole module on the art of listening. And we cannot progress with the students until they deeply embody what it means to truly listen and understand that it's not a passive experience. Sound healing cannot be passive as a performer or a listener, and how, as a sound healer, you actually have to learn pretty quickly to retune your ears, as opposed to detuning them to the noise pollution that surrounds us, bombarding us at any time, and actually to start to learn to seek out the subtleties and the different layers and levels of sound that are available to us. So, for example, I know you spoke in one of your talks about the difference between reductive listening and expansive listening, and how women tend to be more expansive listeners, like fully embodied, fully engaged. And that technique is exactly what one would need to apply as a sound healer. Because, for example, you've got this huge metal 34-inch gong, and it has the power to put out one fundamental tone, but then layers, infinite layers of harmonics and overtones and undertones that just ripple and emanate out of this incredible, beautiful instrument that is obviously a key instrument within the sound healer kit. When you sit in front of that gong and play it, you have no choice but to listen expansively, and then that helps to retune your senses for the rest of your personal life. So to be able to introduce our students to the Listening Society when they're already moving through that process anyway, and to be able to access your catalogues of teachings in this area, I think it will not only change the depth of how we teach this in our academy, but how that then magnifies out into the rest of the world. And because there's never been so much interest in therapeutic sound or sound for wellness or sound for mental health than there is today, and less than there will be tomorrow. It's huge now, and it's a poignant time to set this up. So you've got my full support.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you, Cherub.
One thing, sorry to interrupt, but you need to send me your book.
Yeah. Have I not? I will. Absolutely. Did you give me an address?
I think I gave you an address, but I'll send you again.
I have the packaging now, so the
right.
thing to go out. I had to order special, cardboard packaging.
Oh, right, okay. Or a digital version is fine as well. I don't mind.
I do both.
Whatever. So there are a bunch of things that I intend to ask every guest. One is, I'm really curious, and this came from my previous podcast, I used to ask them as well, is like, what is your earliest kind of significant engagement with your practice? So, like when you were a kid, have you always been fascinated? When was the inception of this? The womb?
Well, obviously, they're for everybody.
Yeah.
And but by the way, I think people often miss this about birth, but I think one of the most shocking aspects of childbirth is moving from one auditory environment to another. You're in this dull, comforting, warm sort of boom, boom, boom. And speech is all very dulled down. Yeah, muffled. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. So there's no treble frequencies in there at all. It's all very bassy, very comforting, very warm. And then you come out and suddenly the whole treble end of the spectrum hits you, hisses, beeps, people's conversations, whatever. It must be shocking. Children can't see, babies can't see, they can certainly hear. And that revelation must be, no wonder babies cry when they come out. It's absolutely terrifying, I should think. So
yeah, I remember I designed a quite a extensive original music playlist to play to my first child when she was in the womb.
Yeah.
Which we used to play like once every couple of days with speakers on the belly and everything. And excuse me. As a test, I never told her about this, but as a test when she was about 6 years old, I thought, because I used to have a studio in my house, I thought I'll just start playing this music and because, I'll see if she recognizes it when I call her into the room. And she absolutely did.
Yeah.
If I'd never played it anywhere else, it's never been published online or anything. So that proved to me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we don't appreciate the importance of sound for in vitro, in utero.
Also, if you think about it, the heartbeat is a waltz. Dub, dub, pause, dub, dub.
Yeah, of course.
3 beat. So it's not a wonder that waltz time is generally very happy and comforting. And, there's not much aggressive military music in waltz time. It's all 4-time or 2-time. So, yeah, a lot of interesting things about babies in the womb. But for me, I think I was lucky enough to have a mother who was quite passionate about music. And I would think about aged 6, she bought me Peter and the Wolf, Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra, Carnival of the Animals. These were records, vinyl records that I played on our gramophone back then endlessly. I loved them and I knew them really, really well. And obviously, as I got a bit older, my own musical tastes came in. I think the first single I ever bought was Ride a White Swan by T-Rex in 1969.
Great song.
But it changed, but I never lost the passion for music. And actually music, I think, is so central to the core of my being. I cannot do anything else when there's music going on. I don't know how people can sit on a tube with headphones on, reading a book and listening to music. I can't do that.
I thought
It's music takes up my whole being, and good sound generally does. So that was really important. Then I learned to play. I started with piano, and then without telling my parents, I switched to drum lessons at school.
Energy.
Bit surprised when I asked them for a drum kit. But they were very good about it. And I then played, and I started playing in bands. And this was late 70s. Made the first record at the legendary Spacewood Studios in Cambridge when I was at university there with Mike Kemp Engineering. And that came out. I didn't even know they'd released it. I was lying in my bed one night listening to John Peel, and he said, here's Fish Don't Humour with Here Come the Nuns. So what? I'm on the radio. So that was a moment. And then I had a few years playing professionally and got broke, as most people do. Not everybody is as talented or as lucky as you are, Martin. You have to believe those two things, don't you? Talented, very talented, or very lucky, or both.
Or both.
In the music industry, yeah. So I didn't. I got very broke, and then I went into selling advertising space, and a career in magazine publishing, and worked my way up, ad manager, publisher, marketing director, launched my own business in 88, which was a magazine publishing company, which I then grew and ran for 15 years, producing lovely customer magazines for companies like Lexus and Microsoft. But I was listening all the time and thinking, yeah, these brands aren't doing anything with sound. What's going on? Still playing music, still loving it, still listening to music, still very conscious of the noise around me. So when I sold that business in 2002, that's when I started the sound agency and started asking, what's your sound? What's the sound of your brand? How does it sound? And I'm trying to answer that question for people. And then the last phase was really this revelation that it's about humans not listening. It's not about companies. It's about people not listening. And the realization that listening is declining. As I often say in my talks, we are losing our listening, and it's precious. It's a primal skill. Homo sapiens has been here for about 300,000 years, and listening has been fundamental. It's how we survived a lot. In the early days, you're going to live in a dark cave. You better be listening, because there's something else in there. We can hear behind us. We can hear in the dark. The eyes don't work in either of those two situations very well. So, it's a primal sense. It's very deep. We listen 20 times faster than we see. So it's a really important sense. And yet, since the Industrial Revolution, we've surrounded ourselves with this increasing level of noise, and people have just gone numb. They've stopped listening. What's the point in listening if it's just road drills and tube trains and aircraft noise and construction and whatever it might be? It's just horrible traffic noise, which is, now we know, doing so much damage in the world. It's the number 2 killer behind air pollution. But it's not a political issue. It's completely invisible. You never have a politician saying, "Vote for me, I'll make it quieter."
Have you ever met one of the other people we're going to be interviewing on the podcast is Lisa Lavia from the Noise Abatement Society.
Yeah, I know Lisa and Gloria.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I was just wondering if you'd met them, because we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Which is, a large part of the reason why I decided to start this podcast. Because there is a kind of, it's almost like a secret society, but why is it secret? So it's time to expose that. There's enough terrible, banal podcasts around. I thought it would be quite nice to have something that's easy to listen to, ironically, but actually has profundity as well. So thank you for doing this anyway. Do you have a comment, Cherub, on this?
Yeah, I love how much emphasis you place on the difference between the power of the ear compared to the eye, because there's so much emphasis on watching and everybody watching and using their eyes as their primary sense. But as we know, and as you've expressed before in the past, the ear has 3 times more nerve connections to the brain than the eyes do. And it directly connects to every single organ in the body, which the eye doesn't. So actually, the ear is our primary sense. And when the eyes go to sleep at night, the ears are still listening and constantly transmitting energy through our whole body, brain organs, and actually charging and encoding our system with information. So that's how information is transmitted through the body.
Your vagus nerve.
Yes, exactly. So the ear has the greatest capacity for expansion, yet in day-to-day life, just to get through it in busy modern day living, we have to detune our senses just to get to work. So that's what we're all doing. So do you think then that just this kind of mass Western detuning of the senses via the ears, by maybe just stuffing music in our ears via headphones and just trying to detune out from the noise, do you think that that's contributed to this kind of Western repression that we have, both around being closed down to true listening, expansive listening, but also to how we then express ourselves vocally, coming back to the speaking element of this? Because we're just overly bombarded by noise, that it's making us all shrink. Do you feel that that's had something to do with the more cultural repression that we feel here?
Yes, I'm sure it has. And so has technology, and so has society. I mean, if you think about it, we teach children how to read and write. We do not teach them how to speak and listen. What's that about? These are These are the primal skills. We've had complex language for probably 100,000 years. And before that, as I said, we were listening all the time and probably using noise. You know, Stephen Mythen's lovely book, The Singing Neanderthals, I think it's probably quite
Great
right.
book. Yeah.
We were probably using non-verbal noise to communicate before that, which eventually became singing and so forth. We were very conscious of sound. You know, there's a lot of, there's this new science, archaeoacoustics, which is quite interesting with some, is it Igor, I can't remember his second name, a long Russian name, who has done a lot of work about this, finding out that areas in caves where there are cave paintings typically are very associated with particularly resonant spaces where the reverberation is very powerful, and particularly resonance around, I would say, the frequencies of a tenor or baritone male voice, which isn't surprising because the shamans, I think, typically back then probably were male. Who knows? And if they were chanting, they'd want somewhere which made them sound, you know, really big and really impressive, just like we put reverb on vocals in music now. So, you know, natural reverb chambers. So it's very interesting, isn't it, that that's where the cave paintings tend to be. And even in areas that are harder to reach with strong reverberation, red dots on the wall just to say, you know, here's a space. So, you know, I think we've been using sound and spaces for hundreds of thousands of years in one way or another. And yet we don't teach children how to speak, how to use this amazing instrument that we all play, which is, I say, when I'm doing workshops, I say, you know, would you go on stage at Carnegie Hall to do a piano recital having never had a lesson or done any practice? I don't think so. And yet, you know,
Yeah, I think this is where politics comes into it. So I'm not apologizing there.
Oh, dear.
I think, you know, throughout history, obviously, and particularly through the last millennium, I would say in the West, you know, the primacy has been about the priesthood commanding the channels of power and information. And so you think about things like, you know, public schools where, you know, they're being groomed to be politicians, or you know, the top universities where it's all about debating societies and the power of the voice. And I know you're very interested in this, Julian, and you're very good at it yourself. But this idea, if it was taught at primary school level, or in you know, your average secondary school, that this tool is amazing, you know, not just for singing, which is also being atrophied at the moment in educational terms,
Yeah.
as a means of navigating powerfully like a ship through this gigantic ocean of information. The voice is critical. I mean, not just literally having a resonant received pronunciation voice. I don't mean that. I mean, it gives you confidence as well, and confidence is a very attractive trait.
Yeah, we've all got different equipment, but it's a question of maximizing what you're given. And most people have never touched that at all. So, you know, the human voice is capable of stunning things. You know, when you think of Aretha Franklin, Robert Plant, you know, Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, whoever it might be, you listen to these Pavarotti, you just listen to these people and go, my goodness, what the human voice can do. And yet most people don't touch it at all. They don't even think of it as a skill to be developed. And even more so, though, listening. You know, if we taught children first how to listen, how much more of their education would they receive? And how much less conflict would we have in society if people knew how to listen consciously and appropriately, you know, how not to be judgmental all the time, how not to be tapping away at something, putting a troll-like comment, you know, a hateful comment underneath somebody else's thoughts because you're anonymous and they can't hear you and that you can't hear them respond. You know, that speaking and listening are generally interactive and they happen in real time. You know, okay, voicemail and stuff like that. But most of the time it's like this, where I'm speaking, you're speaking, we can hear each other. It's an interaction, as opposed to the asynchronous communication we've got so used to with email and text even, which is very convenient. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I have nothing against writing, it's only been around 5,000 years, which is very, very recent, really. And yet we've become this kind of absolutely ocular culture where particularly young people, Gen Z or Gen Z and below, are not comfortable speaking. There's lots of research now show they don't like doing interviews. They don't like picking up the phone and talking to people. They'd much rather be texting because that's how they've grown up communicating. And that's a big problem, I think, because it's, if you look at the numbers around the world, particularly for young people, we've got accelerating depression, stress, suicide, anxiety. All those things are being fostered. Obviously, social media is doing a lot of the damage, but just not being able to talk to people and listen to people and make a human heart connection with somebody, I think that's got a huge part to play in what we're seeing, which is devastating around the world. It's, it's fragmenting our societies with polarization in politics and hate speech, as they call it these days. It's fragmenting families. You get a family sitting around a meal table, all looking at their hands. Nobody speaking at all.
Well, a depressing thing. I mean, this morning I had to go into town. I'm lucky. I live in Little Venice, quite close to Cherub, actually, and had to go into town on the tube. And firstly, I take a lot of notice of people on the tube because I think it's a good indication of people's state. Everybody looks depressed, number one, but I looked at the 25 people who were in the carriage. They were 20 of them were either watching something on their phone or had headphones on, or both. And so the level of communication is diminishing in public discourse. I mean,
It's shocking to talk to somebody in public now.
what do you think?
Yeah, it's weird. People find it weird if you attempt to speak to my parents live in Ireland, and I go there often, and everybody says hello to everybody when they pass in the street. You will end up stopping and talking to a stranger for ages, and it's just the most natural thing to communicate. It's a much different culture there where people still are very expressive, and of course Ireland in itself is still so rich in music and expression and poetry, and you don't so much see that here. But I still also think that en masse, people just find it so difficult to communicate, whether that's just communicating one's need or advocating for oneself in the workplace or in a relationship or around the dinner table. It's an epidemic of people just having forgotten how to communicate. And you take that back to the Singing Neanderthal book you mentioned earlier, when people would just communicate through hums and grunts and groans, and yet that would still communicate the one's truth. Whereas now we're so much more advanced, so much more eloquent, so much more sophisticated. But I think maybe just not needing to listen out for the saber-toothed tiger in the distance has made us so comfortable that we don't need to listen. And there are so many distractions out there to stop us from actually connecting to our deep truth and our sense of self through expressing our, what I call the pure soul tone, the true signature vibratory frequency of our own sound. And I've noticed it through teaching as well, that students come to us and they don't have the full spectrum of sound available. It's like they've lost layers of their own expression, and they tend to be at this one more level throat chakra version of expression, and they don't have that journey and that depth, and it can totally be relearned, and the reconnection can occur just through some very simple vocal practices and an awareness of it. But en masse, that's why these podcasts are so important, and the amazing TED Talks that you've done. I love seeing how many people have seen them, because this is what the world needs, just a great reawakening to reconnect back to our true signature sound.
That's one reason why I live here.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is
Oh, you're in Scotland, aren't you?
Go to the north bit of Scotland and keep going across 20 miles of sea and you get to where I am. So yeah, the Orkney Islands.
You know who else lives there?
No?
John Shuttleworth.
Don't know John Shuttleworth.
You know Graham Fellows?
That rings a bell.
Yeah. Do you know, oh God. John is a comedian, right? But it's a musician. He had a #1 hit with, oh God, in the 80s. Gordon is a Moron.
Oh, yeah.
That was him.
That was a band. Gordon is a Moron. Yes, okay, you're taxing
Jilted John.
Jilted John, that's right. Yes, Jilted John.
God, thank God my brain's still working. But anyway, he lives in Orkney as well. I thought
Really?
we've got
to
to go there.
There's only 22,000 people here, so you know.
He said to me when he first bought this place there, he said, "Oh, Martin, I've got this. I managed to persuade the local community to co-fund it with me. It's in a church, I think, or an ex-church, deconsecrated. Would you like to come up and do some recording?" And I'm going, "Well, how do I get there?" They say, "Well, it's kind of a long journey." No, you're all right, thanks.
Yeah, it's 4 flights for me to get to long away places, so it's a pain that way. But when I get home, it's worth it. You know, the air
looks amazing.
Champagne. It's come across the Atlantic. It's all clean and beautiful. It's a gorgeous place, and it's very easy for me to step out and be in nature, sound with no what I call anthropophony in my book, after my friend Bernie Krause's designations. So there's none of that in many places here. You've got no machines or traffic noise or anything like that. I think it's the lowest traffic density in Europe, actually. But as well as that, we're Europe's #1 cruise liner destination, so it's not always that quiet, unfortunately.
I can totally relate to you. You know, I've just moved from 13 years in London, built up in a city, no garden for 13 years. And I've just moved to South Oxfordshire and I'm literally by the river. You open the front door, we're in no one's Wi-Fi range. And that was really important to me. I didn't want to be on top of all this radiation. So no Wi-Fi in the area except ours, which gets switched off every night. Barefoot out in the garden, and we're right by the river, and the bird song is cacophonous. And I have noticed, I know that's something you touch on in your TED Talks, the importance of it, and you recommend 5 minutes of bird song a day. And I get, because I'm out in the garden from about 8 a.m. till dark, all day, every day when I'm at home. I'm away a lot doing stuff in London, but when I'm at home, I've actually got an outside office. I've got my laptop set up outside. I've got an external plug thing, and I'm doing my work all day surrounded by birdsong. I saw a stoat this morning, muntjac deer. It's all happening out there, and we just have people going past on the river. My productivity has gone through the roof. Well, there is no roof because I'm outside, but it's all because I am immersed in nature. It's changed my life compared to sitting at a laptop working in London. So I really do support what you say in the past, that this nature of birdsong, how it's reassuring, because it means when the birds are singing, it's safe. And when the birds stop singing, it's because something's afoot, amiss. And that's what you said in one of your previous talks. And now it makes sense, because that's exactly how birdsong does make you feel. So yeah, urging everybody who's listening to, as much as you can, get out into nature, wherever you are in the city, and just take in the medicinal purposes of nature.
If you can find it in a city, which is difficult. More than half of humanity live in cities now. Yeah. And in many cities, it's almost impossible to find biophony, the sound of nature, or geophony, the sound of the planet, apart from the odd thunderstorm or rain or whatever it is. You know, I remember, often when I go to New York, I look up and there's a walk, don't walk sign, and there's a little bird sitting on top of it, singing its heart out. Impossible to hear it over 90 decibels of traffic noise. So there's lots of research about the effect of our noise on birds, on many other animals, of course, whales in particular, which I talk about in the book, Sound Effects. And in fact, there's a very disturbing stat I came across recently, which is that in the last, I think, 30 years, the USA has lost 1/3 of its bird population. 1/3.
Wow.
It's quite possible that our children, or certainly grandchildren, will grow up and not have access to that dawn chorus or the birdsong you were listening to, Cherub, because birds are vanishing. We are wiping them out by insecticide, which kills what they eat, and also by habit destruction, where we're destroying the things that they need to live in. So birds are really struggling. You know, I remember when I grew up in London, we'd go to a pub, my dad would buy food, and we'd be fighting off the sparrows. sea sparrows very much anymore.
There are no sparrows
Oh,
anymore,
God,
and I've
that's so sad.
been running for ages.
Do you know what? That's actually given me goosebumps because as a teacher of positive therapeutic sound, I've always been looked at it the other way around, like telling people how important it is to go into nature and draw from nature and the importance of whale song. But I haven't actually tuned into what we're doing to them in a negative way. I've only been looking at the positive of if we bring them into our life. But Christ, that's a scary and desolate thought to think that.
There's a whole chapter in my book called Anthropophony, The Sound of Humanity, which is, pretty depressing. It was quite concerning to write. I mean, it's not all bad, of course. There's music and, there's a lot of very nice sound that we make, but the bulk of the sound that we're making unconsciously is the noise that we've been creating since the Industrial Revolution came along and we invented machines, engines, electricity, and so forth, not to mention war and things like that, which are very noisy. We are devastating. I call it now ecocide that we're committing with our sound. I mean, in Wales, my favorite sound in the world probably of an animal is blue whale. I've got a wonderful recording of a blue whale and it's so subsonic. It's unbelievable. You have to have very, very, very good loudspeakers or headphones to appreciate even the top of it, because a lot of it's below what we can hear. And it's a wonderful sound. Now, you don't want to be next to a blue whale when it's doing that. It's 130 decibels, air-based decibels. So it's very, very loud. And they used to be able to communicate over at least 1,500 kilometers in the deep sea layers by bouncing this sound off the deep sea layers right across an ocean, fundamentally. Now they're restricted to probably less than 30% of that, even down to 10% of that, because there are 60,000 ships at any one given moment cavitating.
Giant trawlers, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
Ships.
oil tankers and freighters and, everything. It's mainly transport vehicles, oil and freighters. And, the cavitation of their propellers is very low frequency and it's deafening the whales or creating a kind of auditory fog where they just can't hear anymore. So, this is the kind of thing we're doing in the world, quite apart from sonar causing mass beachings of pilot whales and things like that, by driving them to the surface far too quickly because they're terrified of this incredible noise. So there's a lot of bad stuff that we're doing. And again, it's because people aren't listening. And it's very easy not to listen to the sea. I mean, I think the sound of the sea is a wonderful subject. The sea is alive with sound, from that blue whale to tiny snapping shrimps, the size of one digit of your finger. And they're even louder, 140 decibels.
They're incredible. Are you friends with Chris Watson?
I know Chris. I wouldn't say I'm friends with him, but we've had conversations.
He was kind of like a mentor to me when I was growing up in Sheffield with Cabaret Voltaire. But now, as you know, he's one of the world's leading natural world sound recordists.
Absolutely. Him and Bernie, Bernie I do know very well, Bernie Krause, but Chris less well.
Well, Chris, I did a touring show called Future of Sound, where we installed a 3D sound system in different theatres and whatever. There was like, everybody got like 15 minutes or 20 minutes to present their work in relation to sound. And so we rendered his recordings through his quadraphonic hydrophones of various things, and obviously whale song and stuff. But one of the things he did was what you just mentioned, the crabs. Is it
snapping shrimp?
Yes, the snapping shrimp. Sorry. And he placed the array, quadraphonic array, in a pool or whatever, shallow water where the shrimp were, and he played it in 3D. It was one of the most incredible 3D sound experiences I've ever heard. Incredible. I mean, they are very, very loud. And most of it is muffled by the water, of course. So you wouldn't notice much of it above water.
And did you know that when they create that kind of 3D bubble of sound, snapping shrimps, it's a process called sonoluminescence, which is my favorite word in the whole world. And what it means is when that sound, that snapping effect, sends out these 3D bubbles, and that sound then creates light, sonoluminescence.
Really?
Underwater dolphins create it too. Snapping shrimp and dolphins. It's a fantastic natural phenomenon.
They've measured the temperature of the light in those little bubbles. They cavitate, these bubbles collapse, and that's what creates the sound. And there's a flash of light, as you say, when that happens, which has been measured at the surface temperature of the sun. It's the same, which is 5,000 degrees.
That'd be ridiculous.
Yes.
Wow.
So they are quite pokey little beasts. So the loudest creatures on Earth, pound for pound, definitely snapping shrimp, quite mighty. So this wonderful sound out there, and I talk about that in the book. There's a whole chapter on geophony, the sound of the planet, and biophony, the sound of living creatures. Another chapter. It's wonderful. It's amazing.
To read this book, it's got everything I'm obsessed with in it.
Even down to cells, of course, which, I didn't know this before I researched the book, but cells effectively sing and they also listen. Now that's quite interesting. And that
Or shells, or both.
cells, human cells.
Oh, okay.
Cells.
So, yeah, cells. Because obviously, we're all on the same page with this. Everything's vibrating.
Yeah.
We go down to the smallest scale that theoretically we know about, which is superstrings, string theory, which isn't proven. But if that's the case, these tiny subatomic building blocks of matter are little vibrating strings, like an orchestra.
Yeah.
And we're all vibrating. Everything's vibrating. Atoms vibrate, subatomic particles vibrate, molecules vibrate, cells vibrate and respond to vibration. So it's not surprising that sound affects us. It's more than 50% water, and that's a very good conductor of sound anyway. So, speaking to what you do, Cherub, I think it's very interesting. Modern medicine, with all the pills that we take these days, I don't know about you, Martin, but as I get older,
Don't worry.
the pill roster gets larger and larger. These pills mostly are derived from, ancient herbal remedies that we have burned people at the stake for using for hundreds of years. And now we realize, oh, hang on, in that plant, there is this chemical that we can now synthesize and put in a pill. And it's all very mainstream. And everybody goes, oh, well, that's science then, isn't it? I'm sure that with thousands of years of sound healing going way, way, way back, maybe tens, hundreds of thousands of years, who knows? I'm sure we'll discover the same thing about sound in due course. And then there'll be a lovely scientific body of evidence going, oh, yeah, this is proper science. This is, not woo-woo at all. So we've got to get there somehow. But meantime, I very much enjoy the rise of things like sound bathing and Shinrin Yoku and all of these kind of practices, which are they're showing that people miss something. There's need there.
The phrase I use, Julian, is as a race, we've forgotten much as a human race.
Yeah.
It's not just sound, but I think sound is a large part of not only our survival mechanism, and it's a big reason for doing this podcast, but also enhances life. It enhances well-being. The last project I've done is a satire on the commercialization of drugs. So in this case, the frequency 111 hertz, which puts you in a trance, and has been scientifically proven. Look it up on Grok. Well, Grok is probably not the best thing to look at the moment, but and so I've created a piece that's an hour long, which I've put on in an art fair in New York. It's 50 minutes long, and essentially it's based around 111 hertz. And I thought it'd be great to create a brand name for it, like a drug. So I came up with Mesmerine. Mesmerine 111.
Sign me up. I want it on subscription.
Basically, said this company, this friend of ours who's put out various things of ours in the past, he's going to do a limited edition, and we're going to package it like. Do you remember Spiritualized? We're ladies and gentlemen, we are floating in space. Remember that CD? I don't know if you do, but it would look like a box for medicines. So I'm going in that
on the shelf up there, actually.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it using that theory, and we're going to put it out soon. So I'll send you a copy of that when it comes.
Brilliant.
Yes,
Yeah,
it feels.
I mean, obviously, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. And what I always say to everybody who asks me about things like binaural beats and what's that four initials thing I can never remember, ADMSR or something.
ASMR, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Come on, which one is it?
ASMR, I think.
ASMR, yeah.
I could never remember them. All that stuff. I mean, binaural beats, is it going to turn you into a Buddhist monk in 10 minutes? No. No, it is not. The Mozart effect. Should you play Mozart to your unborn child endlessly and will they be brilliant as a result? No, they will not. Is it pleasant? Yes. Does it work for you? Or try it out and see if it makes you feel happy, feel nice, feel more stress-free, whatever it might be. It's about experience and it's about everybody's different. People are always saying to me, what's the best sound to work to? And I go, well, who are you? That you need to think and experiment. There's probably somebody out there who works brilliantly to deafening death metal. That's not me. I couldn't do that, but I'm sure there will be somebody out there. So we're all different. And it's just a question of finding out what works for us. So I think we have to be careful. There's a lot of snake oil out there claiming all sorts of things. And, that whole industry that Don Campbell spawned with that one survey, which was never really repeated, about the Mozart, about Baroque music making people do better in tests.
Oh, that's bloody bollocks.
And then suddenly became, this general theory that if you listen to Mozart, if babies listen to Mozart, they're brilliant. No, I don't think so. We're very good to generalize like that, aren't we? I just did a video actually about the Morabian fallacy, which I think is out already on my LinkedIn. If it's not, it should be.
Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, it's you probably see it all over the internet. 93% of all human communication is nonverbal. Research proves. No, it doesn't. Morabian was a very brilliant researcher, and he simply was researching a case where somebody's saying something and their face and their tone are denying it. Are you okay? Yeah, no, I'm fine. So it's that kind of conflict. That's what he was looking at. And in that situation, he said the words are less important than the facial expression, the tone of voice, everything else, the gesture. But to generalize that, as people have, and now say 93% of all human communication is nonverbal. Well, try watching a TED Talk with the volume turned down. Tell me that you get 93% of the content. So, this kind of generalization is something we have to be careful about. But I think with sound, I'm sure you both agree, it is very personal. Your music may be my noise and vice versa.
Well, we saw that at Glastonbury. I was on the way back from watching Pulp on the main stage, Pyramid Stage. Loved it. Total reinvigoration of my childhood there. And on the way back from Pulp, I walked past another stage that had banging, aggressive, antagonistic rock. Yet it was packed. You couldn't see through it. So whilst there's other people listening to Pulp, someone else over there listening to Marabou State, and then you've got this rock thing in the center. So it takes all sorts, and that's the beauty of music, is that it really is so personal. I think when it comes to sound healing, yes, there is a lot of generalization there on the benefits of it. But if we just hone it into the one universal truth, which is that just as an instrument can be tuned, so can we. The human populace are, as you said, made of symphony, and we all each have our own unique soul tone to add to that greater symphony of the universe. So allowing people to get back in tune or retune with our voice, with our true unique soul signature, it helps us all to one by one return back to our natural resonance. So however you get there, through whatever therapeutic sound practice you come across, what might work for one might not work for the other. Bowls, gongs, flutes, singing, drumming, tuning forks. It's so vast. And of course, there are so many studies, or lack of, that project out these different results that might not work, like allopathic medicine. One man's pill is another man's poison. But there's so much within the sound healing realm. You'll find your medicine within it. And the aim of it generally is to just help everybody retune back and recalibrate back to the natural rhythms of Earth, which is kind of the way we all need to go, that you're seeing yourself by living in Orkney and me in nature here, that the more we align to the natural rhythms of the planet, the faster we'll all ascend and come to a place of unity. And
It comes back all the time to me. It comes back to listening. That's why the phrase I use, I hear people talking a lot about active listening. The phrase I use is different. It's conscious listening.
Yeah.
Because I think the important thing is to be conscious. First of all, to be conscious that you're doing something. It's not hearing. Hearing is passive. You do it all the time without thinking about it. Just like breathing or your heart beating. It's a reflex. It's a capability. Listening is a skill, and it's action. It's work. It's something you do. And if you're then conscious that you're doing something, you're in a different relationship altogether from where most people are, which is just sleepwalking through life without thinking about this sense in any meaningful way at all, confusing it, conflating it with hearing almost. So I think, if you're partially listening, it might be tapping away at your hand while somebody's talking to you. Well, that's fine if you're conscious of you doing that and it's appropriate. Somebody's telling you a joke or, having a bit of banter or something, and you can do that with half your brain and send a text at the same time. But if somebody's pouring their heart out to you, or your child's just come home from school in tears and something's happened, that is the time to say, right, I call these listening positions. You referenced it before, Cherub. Where's the best place I can listen from in this conversation? Move to empathic listening or focused listening or whatever it might be. There are many, 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 many different places to listen from. The important thing is to be conscious of where you are and ask, is it the best place I could be in this conversation? And then you're in a different world altogether. So, that's the door that I'm trying to get everybody to go through, is to move from unconscious conflating of hearing and listening and just numbness to conscious listening, doing this thing all the time. And it does take a bit of work. It's like, you have to go to the gym with it a bit and you have to actually be doing this thing. But the glory of it, once you open the door.
So rewarding music. It's amazing. Since I've been doing the 3D sound thing for the last 25 years, it's a bit like, to me, it's like going to a beautiful art gallery every day.
Yes.
Talking about the sound of fucking lorries and stuff, excuse my language. I can't believe it. It's totally quiet, my muse normally. Anyway, it's really a thing of beauty, and it's really enhanced my life, and it will enhance the listeners' lives if they choose to actively listen. I couldn't agree with you more. I think we should wrap this up now because we've been talking for quite a long time, but it's been both enlightening and entertaining for everybody. Thank you so much, Julian.
Well, it's been lovely being with you guys. I'll just put my Listening Society background back on.
Oh, yeah. And I'm definitely going to join because I haven't done it yet, but I'm definitely going to join.
I'm in 100% in. You're a national treasure, Julian. Keep producing incredible work.
Julian Treasure. I see what he did there.
There's so many people that need your work, and I know that you do a lot of work as well in like more archaeoacoustics as well, and bringing these resonant spaces, as does Martin. So that's, I think, what the world needs, is it more emphasis on awareness, on stimulating our environments to make sure that we're in as pure environment as possible. So keep doing the brilliant work, both of you, all of us.
Yeah.
It's time for us all to align.
I've got absolutely, and I've got some daft questions at the end, which I'm going to make a big list of. I used to do it with the other podcasts, but these are more relevant. What's your favorite sound?
Gentle rain on leaves outside a window on a summer night.
Beautiful. And the accompanying smell. I was going to ask you about synesthesia and all that stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yes. What is the most? Who's your favorite composer? It can be anything from ambient to real world. I mean, like natural sounds or.
Well, I've got to give a mention to Brian Eno. He's been a big influence on me over the years. But right now, Stephen Wilson is somebody I'm really. I really, really enjoy his stuff. I think he's so, above genre. He's so eclectic and willing to take risks.
Yeah, let's ask him to come on.
Is beyond belief.
Yep. What's your favorite? What's your most emotional sound? I mean, the one that makes you. Oh, I say not necessarily sound, but maybe composition or a piece of music or something that really deeply affects you emotionally?
Well, I mean, if it's music, I would say my favorite song always has a powerful emotional impact on me, which is Riverman by Nick Drake.
Right.
A sound that I use in my talks, actually, that always creates an emotional impact on me is the amazing sonic logo of THX. I get to play that through huge sound systems, and it always gives me a profound feeling in the pit of my stomach. It really has a kind of
It's so good, actually. Yeah.
it is. But if you just generally emotional sounds, well, the voices of my family, definitely.
Oh, I love that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, me too.
Do
Well,
a whole soundscape called The Voices of My Family. I love that idea.
that's a good idea, isn't it? You can have it in the house when it's empty.
Yeah.
Have it going in the background.
Yeah.
Um,
Or when you're away on tour.
yeah. That would just make me that would just make me miss it more. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much, Julian.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And this will be probably episode 2 or 3. We're going to do them once every fortnight, so it'll be in about a month, I should imagine, something like that.
Lovely. Okay, well, I'll send you details of the book and the list.
Yeah.
I'll give you a code to give people a month's free trial membership of the Listening Society.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, that's
Try
very
it for
generous.
nothing.
Thank you. We'll have a whole world of people that are so keen to learn from you, Julian. Thank you for giving us this time. Could talk to you all day.
Thank you, guys. That's been.
Thank you. All right.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.